What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and the other day there was an announcement. It went something like this. Hey, you like race cars? Do you like racing sims? Do you like GT3 cars? Do you like racing in the night and the rain? Of course you do. So... Hey, look! We got Assetto Corsa Competizione! Woo! Yeah, we got an official Blanc Pond GT Series game coming in the works from Kunos. This is the next step for them. They're spreading their wings, flapping for all they're worth. And I'm just going to go ahead and talk about a couple things really surrounding this game that I'm looking to see, pay attention to, and how that all plays out. In terms of the game itself, it's going to be official Blanc Pond GT Series games, which means that you can basically expect like all the freaking GT cars. In terms of the tracks, you can expect, and I think it's entirely reasonable to expect, all the tracks of the Real World Series. They'll be laser scanned again. 6 of the 10 tracks are already available in Assetto Corsa that make up the schedule, so it doesn't seem too unreasonable. In terms of features, you know, the usual gobbledygook. The gobbledygook. You can find the website in the description. Obviously, there's the trailer. But the big things that they shoved in our faces, because of course they did, it's the most requested features for Assetto Corsa. Night and rain at the same time. Hallelujah. So altogether, you know, it looks very exciting. A lot of people have been busting out the, oh my goodness, we're finally going to get GTR3, except for the fact it's not actually the GTR3 that is essentially vaporware and will probably never see the light, but it's coming from Kunos, which is pretty interesting. You know, as far as what's been announced, they've said relatively little. There's nothing to really talk too terribly much about. They have mentioned that it'll go into Steam Early Access sometime this summer. If you go to the roadmap section of the website for the game, you'll also notice that they're planning on doing some sort of demo event at the Blanc Pond GT Series race at Misano. So I think then about there, which is late June, we'll start to hear more and see more and all that. My personal gut feeling, though, I would not expect this title till 2019 because I'm on to these sim racing developers. They're not as crafty as they think saying soon. But, you know, there's not much to talk about. It is what it is. The things I want to talk about here for the rest of the video are more so the other things, the puzzles, the puzzle pieces. I don't know what you want to call it. You'll understand. So first off, there's the big thing, and that is, how is this game going to be received in the grand scheme of things? Because it is a radical departure from what made Assetto Corsa. You know, when you start up Assetto Corsa, you see that whole your racing simulator thing sitting there, you know, because like the modability and the diversity of content and, you know, all that, and that was really what built Assetto Corsa and got it all of the attention that it did, having all the high-profile licenses and all that stuff in the street cars, which is relatively unique within PC-based sim racing, and then, you know, the whole thing combined to make one thing that is Assetto Corsa, whereas now you look at this new game is going to be really hyper-focused on GT3 racing, and, you know, whatever you think about GT3 racing, I'm definitely on the bandwagon of it. It's not the most exciting thing in the world because the cars are relatively dull and it's been really processed down thanks to the necessities of the series. But there's no doubting that those are popular cars. They're cars that have a widespread appeal, and they're cars that are generally more approachable for newer racers as well online. So I think it could work, but I do see there's a good potential to not capture what made Assetto Corsa and really moving it in an entirely different direction. Like, I'd kind of almost, to a degree, draw the parallel between R Factor 1 and what ended up happening with R Factor 2. R Factor 1's success was really entirely down to the fact that it's so moddable, and then R Factor 2, well, yes, it's still moddable, it really kind of lost sight of that end goal, and it kind of changed the reaction. And I think that's one of the reasons that's all gone down there. That's a bit of a different story, but I think it's definitely one of these things where it's going to be interesting to see, as well as you have to remember, we don't often see street cars within PC racing sims to the degree that Assetto Corsa does. So how much of Assetto Corsa's success is based on the fact that rather than being really focused on race cars, it also has those street cars. What's the draw? We're going to really get to see and learn a lot about sim racing here in the next couple of months. The next thing is the multiplayer system. They mentioned that it's going to be esports focused and do all this and the usual marketing drivel. And this isn't me hating on Kunos or anything like that. It's just, every single one of these developers now, esports. We're doing esports, guys. Esports. If we say esports, that means that the kids will like us because they're into esports. So, esports, it's all a bunch of phooey. But, they do mention that there's going to be a matchmaking system of some kind to try and get more even-skilled races, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because I think the ranking systems within sim racing are going to become more and more important going forward. And right now we've seen two titles where the idea of a ranking system has been something from the outset rather than something tacked on after the fact, more or less. And the final output from both of those titles could not be more different, in my opinion. And this is not me hating anything here. Don't get your panties in a bunch. But, iRacing, the whole thing is the system, it is the structure, and if you take that away, it wouldn't be nearly the same thing that it is, because that is so important. That is what drives that title entirely, almost. Whereas you look at Project Cars 2, the system largely works the same exact way, but it's never a core feature of the game. So therefore, it's just one of those things that it's kind of there, but it doesn't really matter. I'm really interested in seeing how Kunos, approaches this challenge and what way they're going to go about doing this, because again, I think this is something that we're going to see become more and more standard, but I think what we've seen so far is there's a bunch of different ideas about how to execute it, and maybe some work better than others, and again, hey, learning experience going forward. Another thing I'm interested to see play out around this title, it isn't so much the title itself. By the time this game comes out, which, like I said, you're probably looking at 2019 in all actuality, sim racing can very well be a good bit different, because we're at this point in time where we're kind of at a crossroads, where a lot of the titles that are out there are really maturing, and then there's also titles that have basically crossed the finish line, development's winding down, the developers are starting to work on other projects and other things behind the scenes, and they'll probably be announcing their stuff relatively soon. So while we look at what this Assetto Corsa Competizione is going to be and what it's said to be, it all sounds very incredibly exciting, and like, man, this could be, the next step, this could be the one. And I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it can't be, not saying any of that. By the time that this title actually comes around, what's the marketplace going to look like? And the last thing, and this is very much tied into the previous topic, obviously this very well could change by the time this game actually arrives, but Unreal Engine 4. Obviously, it's a very powerful engine. It's very moldable to a wide variety of different types of games, and it looks fantastic, and the sky is the limit and all that good stuff. And of course, Kunos did make their own engine for Assetto Corsa after finding that the Unity engine that they were going to use originally was just not going to cut the mustard. So it's one of those things where they very well could have continued their own development, not getting the commercial off-the-shelf thing, if this was going to be a problem. This very well could be me saying, the sky's falling and all that stuff, but it is something I'm interested to see play out, because the Unreal Engine 4, the track record is not good at all in terms of sim racing. Race Room Racing Experience, Sector 3, maybe even Simbin back at the time before the whole switch. They had released the screenshot of the BMW Z4 from Race Room Racing Experience at Spa, and it's looking more and more like that. Okay, yeah, that's just look what it could possibly do. Riza Studios has openly said that they've looked at evaluating going the Unreal Engine route for the graphics for their next title, although nothing's really materialized or anything publicly, at least on that front. I want to say at one point R Factor 2 was potentially mentioned as going to the Unreal Engine in terms of the graphics. I very well could be wrong on that one. Don't hold me to it, but I swear I remember something, or at least they talked about maybe going that route when they were doing the graphics engine update and overhaul somewhat recently. And then, of course, there's the one game that got the furthest with the Unreal Engine powering the graphics and all that stuff, and that was Kartcraft, a game that is basically stuck in an eternal beta, if even that, and is looking like it's basically just vaporware. It did get into a closed beta, and again, this very well could be because of the fact it was a one-man project, and that's difficult and everything. But let's just say that game had a lot of problems and a lot of things that needed to be fixed. And it really makes me wonder when I've heard things such as the Unreal Engine isn't necessarily the best thing for sim racing, and maybe it's better to go in a different option. It does kind of make me wonder, how is this going to play out? It very well could be fantastic, and I imagine, again, they could have gone and developed their own engine again and gone that route. So I have to figure that it's not going to be a problem, but it is something where you got to wonder. So, yeah, that's that. That's largely the things I'm paying attention to beyond the obvious, what will the game have and all the tracks and all that stuff, and will the AI be better? Hey, it wouldn't be a Assetto Corsa video if I didn't complain about the AI at once, right? I mean, let's be real. But anyways, what do you guys think? What are you guys thinking about this game? Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.